I'd like to show you a few Excel functions that are going to help you look up various values and relationships in what we call tables, or rows and columns of data tables. And what that can do is help lead you towards creating your own automated interpolation schemes for data tables that you may want to consider doing as you work through your classes. So let's get started. The three Excel functions that I want to talk about are VLOOKUP, match, and index. I'm only going to talk a little bit about VLOOKUP because I do not recommend its use. But match and index, I've got to tell you that I've gotten a tremendous amount of power and results from through my work experience. And so here's the objective of this video, is how to look up related entries in a table of 2 or more columns, potentially lots of columns, but at least 2 columns, and how to turn this practice into an interpolation tool for yourself, or an interpolation tool that's an automated tool for yourself and others. And the basics of this lookup skill are covered in example 7 of my basicmath.xls file. And so let me go to the browser quickly so I can show you how to possess this PowerPoint file using index and match. And so I'm going to scroll. Here we are at jstoolbox.vt.domains. Let's scroll down to search. And I think a good if you go to keyword match, if you click on, and this is the one that comes up first, Excel match and index, then you can download this PowerPoint that you're basically watching now in video. And if you need to come back and look at it, or if you need to look specifically at slides, and I have some links in that PowerPoint slide file that you can go to and learn more and more about this on your own. And so I do recommend you're downloading this PowerPoint file called Excel Match and Index. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. So example 7 in basicmath.xlsx is the starting point for this, but not all the example problems are shown in that file. Okay. And so here's our example problem number 1, and it's a 2-part example. I've gotten this table. I've got a table of 2 columns, and one is first is a numerical product code. You see, they're just a bunch of numbers, and up against a product name. And this is very similar to work I did in my own workplace. Although I did not work in an ice cream factory, I've kind of come up with this as an illustrative example. Now, so it's very common if you're making things or building things or ordering things from another supplier or sets of suppliers, that there might be numerical product codes, and associated with those are names of things that you're much more familiar with. And what you'd like to do is have an ability to go back and forth quickly between product name and product code. You say, well, look, this thing fits on one screen. I'm just going to use my eyes. I'm going to see that chocolate ribbon is 7,000. So what's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal if you might have hundreds or thousands of product codes tied to hundreds or thousands of product names. And that could certainly be the case. I want to show you how to build a tool where the user, you or I, enter the numerical product code, and Excel will look up the flavor name for you. Or, part 2, create a tool where the user, you or I, we fat finger in a product name. I don't know, let's say like brownie bar mashup, and it's going to automatically return product code 8500 to you. And if this list doesn't fit on one sheet, one screen, you'll come to really, really appreciate this. So let's see how that works. Oh, this is my cue to go live to Excel. Okay, here we are in the Excel environment, and here is my product code table. And I've tried to create a little skeleton for myself to keep myself straight as I show you how to do this. And so you can see here that even this little example problem doesn't fit on one screen. I've got to scroll down for the whole list to be able to be seen. So you can kind of see, I can see a potential use of this. First thing I want to do is show you how to use VLOOKUP quickly, but I don't recommend you learn or use VLOOKUP very much. Many people say, oh, you just use VLOOKUP. There's some downfalls to that. So let's try, here's what we'll do. Let's do try 3,500. Okay, so that's going to be product code 3,500. I better turn that yellow since I just fat fingered that in. And what's the answer going to be? Let's scroll down. 3,500 is New York cheesecake. Okay, so we're okay. And so that's what we're hoping to find out here in this next cell. We're going to use the VLOOKUP function equals VLOOKUP. And when you hit your parentheses, Excel prompts you for what's the next thing you need to enter? Lookup value. Well, our lookup value is 3,500. So I'm going to, instead of typing in 3,500, I'm going to click that cell, D8, comma, table array. So for VLOOKUP, the table array is the set of rows and columns for the whole table. Okay, so that's what I just did for the table array, A7 through B57. I'm clicking up in the formula editor, hit comma. Excel says, now what column index do you want me to look up the product name? For VLOOKUP, the lookup entry, this lookup value, or in our case, the product code, has always got to be the first column. That's a drawback, so that's why I don't recommend this. But let's see, we're column index. We're looking for column 2 to return the product name. So I'm going to type in the number 2 for the second column. And then I'm going to close my parentheses and enter. Oh, and I've got a, oh, darn it, I've got a mistake, NA. Huh, what did I do wrong? I'm going to have to go troubleshoot. I've got to hit comma. Oh, I need range lookup. I've got to hit comma again. And since I'm dealing with product names that are not numbers, I've got to click false. I'm going to double click it, which means I need an exact match. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, now we go. New York cheesecake. And so let's see, we got it right, didn't we? And so let's try something else. How about good old 9,400? 9,400 is black walnut. It's working, okay? How about 9,409? NA. So Excel says there is no 9,409 product code, so I gave you an NA. So I couldn't find a related name. So back to 9,400. So it's kind of foolproof. All right. I do not recommend VLOOKUP because it forces you always to the first entry, in this lookup value has always got to be the first column. And there are many, many times in work that you might have a situation like this, but you're trying to work back and forth and back and forth. Sometimes you know the product name and you want to go back to the product code. Sometimes you know the product code and you want to go to the product name. So unless you copy and switch the position of your columns, and you don't want to do that, you want just the table to stay still, then you're sort of stuck. VLOOKUP is very restrictive. So anyway, that is the use of VLOOKUP, but I don't recommend it. Let's go on to you. What I'm going to do is show you how to get exactly the same result, but more in a much more elegant way with match and index Excel functions. So the next is, let's type in 9,400 again. We know what result we're going to get, okay? Next thing I want to do is show you, we're going to look for the match row in the array of product codes where 9400 appears. Can you see where it will appear? What are we going to get here? Well, let's see. I've got an array that I'm going to light up. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So do you see the indexing there? Because I'm going to light up, this is going to be the first entry in my array. So the row in the array is going to be 3. Okay, here's how you do that. Equals match. It's the match function. Parentheses. Okay, the lookup value. The lookup value is 9400. For this function, the array is only one little column. In engineering speak, it's a vector. It's one column wide. Okay. And so let's light this up. Let's define our little one column array or vector. There it is. And I'm going to hit comma again. Now we got to pick match type. And the match type is, I want an exact match. I want an exact match. I double clicked exact match to put a 0 up there. And I'm going to close my parentheses. And there it is. Sure, look at that, 3, just as we predicted, exact match. Okay, so there we go. 9400 is the third entry in our table. Now what we're looking for is the flavor name. We're going to use the function index to find that, because what we want to do is find the third entry in this array or this vector, okay? Equals index. Okay, index of what? Now it says, let's see, define the array first. So the array is a vector, one column. There it is, comma. Now, what row do you want me to look up? Excel says, what row do you want me to look up? We just found it. It's 3. I'm going to click on this cell D13 and close parentheses. And there it is, black walnut. So we used index to look up the third entry in the product name category. So is this thing working? Let's type in 7200. We got chocolate fudge. Yep, there it is. How about 7205? Nope. So here's what it says. Look, I got NA. I couldn't find a 7205 exact match in my product codes. Got you an NA. So can you look up NA in the product names? No, it's the null set, so can't do. 8200. That's burgundy cherry in row 7. All right. Now I want to throw at you something a little more sophisticated. Okay. I want to show you how to make a single formula and get exactly the same result of burgundy cherry. Let's copy and paste this cell. Copy this whole cell, 8200, and put it right there, 8200. Okay. The next thing we're going to want to do is create one formula. We got to plan first. So we have to plan. We're going to use Excel index and match. So we're going to find index first. We're going to type that in first and then communicate to Excel what match row do you want me to look up that entry in. Okay. And so we're going to say equals, okay, index. Okay, what array? So we're looking for the product name, the index in the product name column, index of the array. So I need to define this array, and it's this vector right here, comma. Well, what row number do you want me, Excel says, what row number do you want me to look at to return? Okay. Well, I got to determine the match to get that row number. So instead of typing in a number, I'm going to type in match function. Okay, so now we're thinking about match. Where do I want to get the match? What's my lookup value? You say, what's lookup value? It's 8200. So I'm going to click that cell, D17, comma. And what lookup array do you want me to look for 8200 in? This vector right here. Comma. And now it's saying, now what match type? I want that exact match. I'm going to double click exact match. Okay. And now I'm going to close my parentheses on match. And so I'm going to have to admit that I had to terminate the video previously because I've made so many blunders that it was getting very confusing. So before I hit enter on my formula, I'm going to study my formula up here. And I'm going to see that, I've got a parentheses over here that's not closed yet. So I'm going to type another closed parentheses, and then I'm going to hit enter. And I think my formula is going to be okay. Got it, burgundy cherry. So let's recap. Pretty complex, a little advanced. I've got a single formula that involves two Excel functions. The first one is index, and that is in my product name category, B7 to B57, okay? But then I need to determine what index I'm looking for, and that is this last functional block, match what? D17, that's the number 8200. And where do you want me to match it? A7 to A57, okay? And I want an exact match, okay? So that's the way to do that. I am going to have to admit that things went a little smoother on my second try around than my first try. That's part one of example one. Now for part two, to illustrate why VLOOKUP is not a real good approach. So let's look up, so let's type in black walnut. Okay, and I'm going to turn it yellow. So I'm fat fingering in black walnut, and I want to know what product code it is. Let's go through that same drill. What's the match row of black walnut in the product name? So it's equals match of what? Here's the value. The value is text, black walnut. What's the lookup array? It's my list of flavors, comma, match type. I'm just going to fat finger in the word zero, the number 0 and close parentheses. And it's match row 3. Is that right? Yeah, look at that. 1, 2, 3. There's black walnut. All right. Now, what we're looking for is the product code. We're going to use index for that. Equals index of, well, what array are we working on? It's this array right here. Whoops. One column of array. Comma. Well, what row? We just determined the row. It's row 3. So instead of typing in 3, I'm going to click D22, close parentheses, and there is my match row, 9400. Let's try 8200. Ooh. And I'm getting a blunder, okay? So match. Oh, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Typing in 8200. It's not finding 8200 in the product name. So it's helping me out. I want not 8200. I want the word burgundy cherry. It's row 7. The product code is 8200. Shame on me for not remembering what I was trying to do. Try black walnut. We tried burgundy cherry. Okay, that might have some value in the video. So sorry about that. All right. Single formula. Let's go with the burgundy cherry again. Okay. And let's copy and paste. Just saves me from typing in burgundy cherry again. And let's try the single formula approach again. Burgundy cherry. So we're going to be using index over on this array, but we're going to go to, no, that's not right. Yeah, we're going to find match to find out what match row we are in this array and apply it to index of this vector to find out the product code. Okay, so maybe we should say this is product code. Okay. equals, and we're going to type the first thing we're going to do is do index of what array? So it's our product code array, comma. Well, what row number do you want me to be? That's going to be match. What lookup value? Flavors burgundy cherry. Well, what array do you want me to look for that in? Product name, comma. And what match type? Well, I want it to be an exact match. I'm going to type in 0, close parentheses. And I am going to remember that I need to close parentheses again to match my parentheses sets. Okay. And lo and behold, we've got 8,200 for burgundy cherry. So let's see if I can do this right this time. How about eggnog? Good old 5,300. How about French? How about Heath? 5,100. So it's my hope that I've demonstrated to you how to use match and index together to get relationships back and forth between two columns of data. In this case, we had a column of numbers and we had a column of text. Very powerful. Okay, and so back to PowerPoint. That is example 1. We finished example 1. And that should be a just a little screenshot of how we did with that. Okay, and notice the power of the yellow cell. Do you see how the yellow cell jumps out at you to remind yourself, if you left this alone for 6 months, what do I need to fat finger in, and what is an Excel formula? Very powerful, these yellow cells practice. All right, example problem 2 is we're back to boiling water. So I have a long table of pressures and the corresponding boiling point temperatures at each pressure of water. Now, you know what's going to be going on for this bowl of water sitting at 1 atmosphere pressure on the stove. Well, that's 100 kPa. And so the boiling point is 99.63, okay? But if I've got a pressure cooker, my pressure is going to go way, way up, but I want to be able to predict the pressure or the temperature inside the pressure cooker that's boiling water simply by knowing what the pressure gauge reading is. And so what I want to do is do an example is, what is the boiling point temperature for a water pressure of 225 kPa? And here's my table. Uh-oh, there's no 225 logged in here. There's 200 and there's 250. And here's 2 boiling point temperatures. So I'm going to bet I'm halfway between, right? So 225 is halfway between 200 and 250. So the boiling point temperature is going to be halfway between 120 and 127. That's a very simple linear interpolation, isn't it? What I want to work up to with this example is being able to take this table, and so that the user can type in any pressure, and immediately get the boiling point temperature. So that's my objective. And do you see that's kind of an advanced functionality, kind of advanced. I'm going to go to Excel. Okay. So I'm going to move over to boiling point temperature. Okay. Here is my table of pressures and temperatures. So again, notice it doesn't fit on one screen. So a little tough to do in general if your table doesn't even fit on one screen. So I've gotten started. I've made myself some prompts so that I keep myself on track in the video rather than a blank slate. So at least I've started out with my pressure of 225. I fat fingered it in cell A5 and turned it yellow. The next thing, so here, let me just, rather than tell you where we're headed, let me drag you through the steps, and then I hope you'll find out what we're doing. First thing I want to do is find the best match row for 225. Let's use our eyes. What would be the best match row for a number that's less than or equal? So I can see that I'm going to be in here, right? So I'm at least 200, but I'm less than 250. And so I'm going to look for the row that's less than or equal to 225. Okay. So here's the way you do that. We're going to use match equals match. The lookup value. So Excel's prompting me for lookup value. I simply click on A5, and there's my lookup value, comma, the lookup array. I need to light up my array. However, let me do a little different trick than the first example. Let me click the entire F column. Very powerful to do that when your data is arranged in columns and there's nothing below, there's nothing lower on your spreadsheet than just the data. I've clicked on column F is my array, very long array, okay, comma, match type, okay. I'm going to pick one which is less than or equal to, or I could leave that blank. That's the default, less than or equal to. And it found, so the result is 16, the match row 16. So look, we're starting here. Our first row is this label. So when we clicked the column F, you see that the match row would be column 16. Okay, and so there it is. There's the match row 200 that's less than or equal to 225. So I'm making some progress. So let me grab both the pressure and temperature numbers from that row. Now, pressure at best match row. It's going to be equal to index. That's it, okay. What array? I'm going to click the F column again. What row number do you want me to look up? I'm going to click this A6. There it is, it's 200, okay. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for boiling point temperature. I'm going to look that number up, equals, index. Index of what? Okay, the array. I'm going to click column G, because that's where the pressures are. Well, what row do you want me to look up? The same one here, 16. Okay, and enter. 120.2. Let's see, how are we doing? Got it right. All right. Let me pretty this thing up as I'm going along. Box my borders. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to interpolate. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to find the pressure at 225, aren't we? So that's less than or equal to. We need to go to the next row. How would we go to the next row? How would we get the data out of the next row? I would add 1 to this number. Okay, so I'm just the next match row is equal to, it's a formula, equals whatever that number is, plus 1. Row 17. That's kind of cool. All right, and so now the pressure at this next match row equals the pressure index of, click column F, that's my whole big array. 1 column wide, but big. Row number, here it is, 17. Close. 250, got it, okay. Boiling point temperature equals index of what? What array? It's the G column this time. Well, what row number? 17. Did I get it right? 250. 127.4, cool. All right, so let me box these out. Now we're getting there. We're getting to answer our problem and more. All right. So let's say interpolation table. Let's say let's come up with a column heading: pressure and boiling point temperature. So the pressure. Let's see now. So we've got to interpolate, don't we? So let's see. How do we create an interpolation table? We will go, well, let's see. Here's the first pressure, 200. Okay. Now let's skip a row. Let's go down to the next pressure, equals this one, 250. Okay. Now, I'm not going to turn these yellow because I didn't fat finger it in. I just linked. It's a simple formula, equals A8. This is a simple formula, equals A12. How about the one in the middle? Another simple formula, 225. Okay. How about our boiling point temperature over here? Here it is, 120.2. Okay. How about at 250? 127.4. Okay. I'm going to box in everything. How about our interpolation formula now? So let's see. Hopefully we've got a video that you can go back to. If this might be Greek to you, go back to the how to interpolate an Excel video. So we'll just do it without even having a formula to look at. Well, we know that the value is going to be at least this much, isn't it? At least that much. Plus, it's going to be a proportion. And so that we're going to start the numerator of the proportion. It's going to be this pressure minus this pressure. That's the numerator. The denominator is the entire span, this pressure minus this pressure. Okay. Okay, times, well, what's the maximum span over on the boiling point temperature? It's this quantity, this upper temperature minus this temperature, 123.8. And so there is our answer to our example problem. So at 225 kPa, the boiling point temperature is 123.8. But what have you created even more? Let's say, how about a pressure of 100 kPa? Look at this. At 100 kPa, now look at this, it's automated. How about 105 kPa? Or 101 kPa? It's doing the interpolation for you already. How about a real high pressure? Let's say 728. 728. I said 722. 728. All right. So what's Excel doing? It's 728. It's finding the best match row, 24. There's 700. Okay. And it's writing two numbers down for you, 700 and 165. Okay. It's at the next match row is 25 because it's 24 plus 1. So it's writing the next number down, 800 and 170.4. Okay. Now you've created a nice interpolation table. And so it's taken that data that's looking up and it's automatically calculating the boiling point temperature at 728 is 166.51. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And so I hope that the wheels are turning of, hey, I might be able to do something with Excel to speed up my homework time, okay? Or solve some engineering problems outside of class or something for my internship. Now, okay, one thing I wanted to mention that I glossed over was when I'm looking for the match row, and this, let's look at this formula, match row A5, that's, I'm looking for 728. The array is FF, and then a 1. I've copied and pasted what's called the syntax of match. And this 1 or 0 or -1 is the match type. 1 is the default, and that's when the default value is match type 1, that means that your data that you're trying to match, in this case, pressure, is set up in ascending order. Okay. That's important because it finds what's less than or equal to 728. Okay. If this column were arranged in descending order, you'd need to make it -1, and the best match row will be the number that's greater than or equal to the selected number. So you got to be a little careful. You have to know your data, can't blindly go off and do things. So you do need to use the, so in using match, this match type is either going to be 1 or 0 or -1. And that is very important depending on the way your numerical data is arranged. Ascending order or descending order. And so if it's not arranged in any order, if it's just a jumble of numbers or a jumble of text, that's when you use match type 0, where you're looking only for an exact match. And that's going back to example 1 with the flavors. So there is no such thing as ascending or descending when it comes to text in Excel. So do be aware of that, but especially when you're making matches with numbers and property tables. Okay, and so I hope the wheels are turning for you as I showed you. Let's recap before we go back to PowerPoint. I had a table of pressures and temperatures. I wanted to create a tool that would look up for any pressure, 351. Automatically, Excel looks through that. It does an interpolation for it. You trained it to do an interpolation for you, to do a linear interpolation. So at 351, the boiling point temperature is 138.99 degrees C. All right, back to PowerPoint. This is simply to capture what I droned on and on about a minute ago regarding the match type in match. So the 1, 2, 3, the third argument is either 1, 0, or -1. Be very aware of that. So I made a screenshot of the user-friendly tool. This screenshot is not particularly well cleaned up. Let's see, what would be the criticism? I need to turn 225. I need to turn A5 yellow, okay? And I could probably do a little better job of explaining what I've got. I could put little border boxes around my numbers, so it's not quite finished. And now what this does is by you gaining experience in match and index and creating these formulas, that's the gateway to having Excel automate the evaluation of thermodynamic properties for you. And so if you pull down this PowerPoint file, there is this of course is a link. There's a hyperlink here that you can click on this hyperlink and immediately get to another PowerPoint that gives you links to my offering of automated Excel tools for looking up thermodynamic properties. But there's no reason that you could not create this work on your own. You would not have to simply use my work. You're welcome to. It's out there in the public domain. But you can create your own automated work. Now, in fact, some folks have said, well, I use MATLAB. And the answer is you can use these concepts that I've tried to show you regarding the tabular values and interpolating. You could do the same thing in MATLAB. It's just that I don't offer MATLAB tools out there on the internet. But I hope this has helped you. Let's see. And so, links to various Microsoft links. If you find my explanations of working with formulas lacking, which it might be, there's a link to overview formulas in Excel. It's not video, it's just printed word. The match function and the index function is right straight from Excel. And so some good examples shown in these links. So what are the takeaways? I don't recommend using VLOOKUP. You can use the match function to find the match row very effectively. And it is especially effective when you're working between text and numbers and text, text and numbers. Match type 0 means exact match. That's when you're working with text. And then match type +1 or -1 means nearest match. And remember that has to do with whether your column is in ascending order, getting bigger, or descending order, getting smaller. And so that covers it. I can assure you that you'll get better and better at this the more you practice, in Excel. Hope this helps, and hope to see you again soon.